So hello everyone. What is today? June 6th. Did I get the date right?
Yeah.
They're all running together. Thanks for joining us. I don't have a coffee, but it is before noon somewhere where Dennis is. It's before noon. So
it's 10 o'clock over here, 10:03.
I attended a few of Dennis's WebEx online meetups, and I thought it was very interesting. It was a very interesting group of people. So, and the first one I attended, they went around and they just said, how did everybody get started with Tesla, which was very interesting. And then the last one I was at, they actually did a Model Y, kind of like customization overview with a company. What was the name of that company?
Yeah. So it's called RPM Tesla. RPM Tesla Aftermarket. The guy is one of our longtime members from the Tesla Owners Club of Orange County. So he's actually must have joined us second or third meetup or something we've had. So long time before we even had the business. So his business is getting all these custom stuff for Teslas. But I knew when his original model was something else. So he was doing limo services here in Southern California at one point too. So.
That's interesting.
But yeah, Model Y. He made it orange or copper, actually.
Yeah. And I thought it was very interesting. It basically had a phone or a camera, and they did a overview of the whole car and some of the customizations you could do to it. So, but I thought Dennis would be great to talk to us a little bit about what's happening in California. And I put up a bio. I can read it again. Let's see here. There's another person coming in. So Dennis, he spent decades in dynamic organizations in the internet and telecommunications industry. In 2012, he had an epiphany and became accidentally environmental. That's interesting. And moved to join the revolution, first as a driver, then an advocate, and finally pivoting his career to his passion for clean tech. He's the principal of, how do you pronounce, is it Pascual?
Pascual.
Pascual. He's the principal of Pascual Consulting, a firm focused on clean tech and IoT. He has helped numerous clients achieve success in the field. He paused his consulting practice when he was recruited to run Tritium's entry and expansion into the Americas as its senior vice president of operations, where he was responsible for the exponential growth of the DCFC Australian manufacturer. After achieving his goals, he returned to his consulting practice. I'd like to talk a little bit about that and the charging stations as well, because when they kind of came on the scene, they looked different than all the other ones. So we can talk a little bit about how those things are built and why they're so much thinner, and we'll get into that. Dennis started driving electric in a BMW Active E, which he begrudgingly had to return, and currently shares a Tesla Roadster, Model S, and Model 3 with his wife. Logged over 300,000 electric miles so far. He has traveled across the country when there was only one supercharger route across the U.S. He's also one of the people in charge of the Tesla Owners Club of Orange County, California. So welcome, Dennis.
Thanks, Mark. Actually,
go ahead.
Yeah, that particular trip across the country was actually inspired by some of your neighbors and friends. The old Tesla road trip gang that became Tesla Mid-Atlantic that has since broken apart, I guess. Andrew and team.
Jeffrey Cameron just jumped down.
Hey, Jeff.
The guy.
We don't get to do our selfie today. I guess you can put it on Zoom and put it together or something, man. I'm on a phone because I can't seem to get my laptop running. Yeah, so you guys actually inspired me to do microdrive across the country because they did it several times before, and I wanted to join you guys for the Ocean City meetup back in 2015. But I was in the middle of finishing out my earnout from the last job I had when I was making that was actually the trip that gave me the company that maybe I'll do this as a business, doing clean tech. That was my last internet business, and I was supposed to stick around until basically weeks after you guys had your meetup, so I wasn't going to lose my my bonus for that. So
yeah,
I did my drive at that point. So
that was that was a great event in Ocean City. They basically blocked off the boardwalk so we could pull our car. Well, they let us pull the cars onto the boardwalk. I was with Jeffrey, and then they parked them at an angle, and there's just people just walking all up and down, asking about the cars.
Yeah, that was really inspiring. I mean, I'm like, I missed that. I wanted to do that.
What year was that
one in
again?
New Jersey at that point. Was that Scott?
That's 15.
That was in 15? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was like April or something of 15 because I did my trip in May. Maybe it was March. I don't know. It was earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talked in your bio about, so how did was the Active E the first electric car you've had or
yeah. So the Active E, basically, I mean, like I said on the environmental because in California, one of the biggest perks that we had for driving clean, and it continues to be, is the ability to go ahead and use the HOV lanes by yourself. And that's a big time saver, right? I drove I drove basically on a direct shot without HOV lanes, 35 miles to work. Oh, there you go. I'm starting to load in on the computer. Yeah, so 35 miles directly, but there's no HOV lanes, or 50 miles with HOV lanes. And I did that with a hybrid originally, Honda Civic Hybrid. And I chose that because that was going to be faster for me. And, didn't really care about the money saving part of it at that point when it's a Honda Civic. It got me there and got me there faster. Saved me basically 15 minutes each way, even though it's 15 more miles. 30-minute savings, a lot of time. And that's why I went with a yellow sticker hybrid. And then they ended that program in 2011. And so I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I mean, I was looking at the natural gas Honda Civic because it would have done the same thing. It would have saved me time and the like. But I just couldn't get myself around the fact that I'm looking around and having to fuel at special fueling stations. And frankly, it looked the same as my old hybrid and didn't really want to go that direction. And you couldn't fold the seats or all that stuff. So the BMW Active E program actually had a feature on USA Today while I was on a trip that my wife told me she saw a listing of, and she said, maybe you consider that because electric was eligible for those white stickers. And so I looked into it, and we have an affinity to BMWs because outside of the Honda Civic Hybrid, all our other cars at the time were BMWs. So I thought, I'd reach out, and I just kept bugging my sales guy saying, hey, you guys have to be part of this program. Put me in. And as soon as it opened up, they added me to the program. I actually got it before I got a level 2 installed. So for several weeks, I was plugging in on 120, driving basically 50 miles each way. But part of that program allowed me access to a charging station, level 2, at the local dealership, which had pretty much the availability. Mm-hmm. So I'd recover the 50 miles while I was at the office, and it was about a mile away from work. So I ended up losing weight actually doing that time because I did a lot of exercise. You plug into wherever the level 2 is, right? And you walk or do whatever and then come back to it. The old days.
So you picked the car up from a dealer. Is that how it worked back then?
Yeah, that's how it worked back then. It was a dealership vehicle. Now I'm trying to load up the other. Go ahead. And
during the time you had it, did you have to get it fixed at all, or was it pretty reliable? No. It was a test. It was a test vehicle, right? I mean, there were things that you had to bring it in for. You brought it in for them to check things out more often than you normally would. I mean, even when it didn't have anything wrong with it. But there were times when there was that motor whine, or there was a motor replacement that they had to do that you had to queue up for, and that took weeks that they did it. But you took care of it. I mean,
is that the same program Tom Malogny was on?
Yeah, actually, Tom and I had a competition. There was a list of who had the most miles in the country, right? And I was top in the West. Whoa, hold on. Let's echo down. All right.
Get the computer up.
Mute this one. mute that one. Can you guys hear me? And see me here.
Yeah, I can hear you.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna hang up the phone.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, now this is easier for me. Yeah, so Tom and I were leaders. He led the East, I led the West. Whoa, you shaved, Jeff. You look like you. Yeah, so Tom had the top mileage in the East, and I had the top mileage in the West for the 2 years of the program until about the last month and a half. Someone logged the West Coast miles and actually surpassed me. So I actually planned it because I knew how far I was from the dealership. I knew my driving. I planned it so that when I turned in the car after 2 years, I had 54,321 miles on my car, which placed him third overall. Tom led everybody by easily 6,000 miles. I think he did like 60,000 miles on. He had 2 active E's because he actually had time. He got knocked out. He drove his original one into a tractor or something in rural New Jersey. He got into an accident. I think to this day he still has his back still hurts and stuff, and has to have stuff done. Hopefully it's gotten better. He's had several. I guess hip I can't share. But either way, he's had it worked on. But yeah, so that was a story with Active V, and it's a great car. I loved it. I actually offered the dealer 50% premium on top of what the residual was, saying, hey, I want to keep this car. And they're like, no, we're going to grab it. And then of course I had that photo that circulated on the internet with a bunch of them crushed on the 91 freeway. And they were totaled and stuff. In fact, having talked to one of the guys at BMW that was originally part of that program, he got a request to try to save one for the museum or whatever, like a day after they crushed a bunch of them and pretty much didn't have any. So kind of a sad thing. I mean,
yeah. How did you get it? Oh, I'm sorry. How did you get introduced to Tesla?
Well, one of the things that we were doing when we got into the Active E was, it not only was it great for the carpool part of it, but obviously the driving dynamics, right? There's nothing compared to driving EVs. And, I was supposed to, my wife and I were supposed to replace our vehicles after the Active E to be both electric. And we placed an order for a Model S because for her, she didn't want to go through the hassle of going to level 2. I mean, to get 54,000 miles in 12 and between 2012 and 2014, it was mainly level 2, and the Active E didn't have fast charging, right? So we were like, okay, well, that had the most miles. Let's go just buy that, and that was going to be for her. That was a no-brainer. We put a reservation down, and my car was going to be one where I would go ahead and try out all the cars, which created the blog, which has been kind of defunct since 2017. I need to update again. I have time now, but when I started working for Tritium, I didn't have the time to do so. I mean, I was busy building the business up. Yeah, so we were looking at the best car, and I mean, I talked to everybody, and quite a few people in the Active E program were dual EV owners. One had a Tesla and an Active E, so it only made sense. And the other choices were obviously the Volt and the Leaf at the time. And the Leaf, my wife didn't like, and she's like, well, she didn't want to plug in hybrid. She's like, if we're gonna go electric, you go all in. There's no point in bridging it at that point. She wanted to just be efficient. We already did a hybrid, right? And she was all in an EV, so she was going to get the Model S, which was great. I'm like, all right, fine. I test drove everything that came out, and it was fun. Ford Focus Electric came out during that time. A few others that were there, and I would test them out, write about in the blog. I think the Fiat 500e came out as well. There were a few things that came out in that towards 2014 that were good to test out, and I was fine with going to a 100-mile range car. But when it came down to Tesla wanting us to finalize our order, it was very early in 2013. Well, if you guys remember, the federal tax credit doesn't get applied until you file for it in the next year, and then it gets applied. The earliest you get it is January, whatever, when you get your W-2s and file everything. And I look at it financially and said, well, we have the one electric. We're getting by
do it. I ended up, because I was in this competition with Tom anyway, I wanted to put as many miles as possible. So I would take a long drive to drop my wife off at her work, go to work, and then go back to pick her up and go home, because we're both workaholics, but she's a bigger workaholic than I am. So, you know, what does it matter whether we eat at home or we're out to dinner, you know, near her work? And so I ended up getting to know the area around her work that had a lot of charging stations. She worked in the west side of Los Angeles, which historically has had more of the chargers than where I worked. I worked more in Glendale, which is northern part of LA. So yeah, it was twofold, right? We ended up spending a lot more time with each other. We were able to, you know, I was able to find charging stations and better restaurants. You know, there was actually a point in my blog where I would pick places write about places that had good food and charging, because, you know, back then it was kind of a novel thing to try to find a charging station. I mean, I'm sure most of you guys are probably, I mean, how many people are new? I mean, you know, just in the last 2 years or whatever, right? I mean, no?
Yeah, I think a lot of people on here had electric cars or cycles for a while.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you've had your car longer than 3 years, or, you know, even 4 years, whatever, it's a different experience than it is now. I mean, it's so easy. I mean, especially in California, right? I mean, I've got so many charging choices. It's funny. I mean, there's still people that get anxiety, but that's kind of funny. I mean, yeah, that's just education.
In California, I mean, are there so many that you don't have to worry? I mean, obviously with these longer range cars, it's not a big issue anymore, but people that are still scurrying around in Leafs and older vehicles, is the availability such that, I mean, I was going to show this in my show and tell, but do a lot of people use things like this?
Yeah, I mean, I do on road trips, but the newer people aren't taught that, right? You know, I mean, it's one of those things that we try to do at the club level. When we do our clubs and we have noobs, we try to tell them, hey, here's what you do to be kind to others. You know, be kind to the plug-in. You know, don't get pissed off at the plug-in electric guy because he's plugged in at the local level too, and you've got an all electric. You think that, you know, you're virtue signaling because you're all electric. It's like, look, as long as everyone's electrified, it doesn't matter, right? There's always been that problems. I mean, you know, as former Volt drivers or current Volt drivers, you still have it. I mean, you've gone through that phase where everybody's like, well, I'm driving a Leaf, so I'm going to unplug this person because I need to charge more than he does. Well, I have no knowledge of where you're going to drive. I don't know if your percentages are actually higher than mine. I mean, one of the things that I wrote about when I was writing the blog was I actually ran a hybrid garage for years, right? I sold my last ICE car in 2017. But before then, I was trying to track, you know, I like that whole statistic that Volt drivers had that told you what percentage electric were you driving, right? And you know, there's a lot of Volt. I mean, the guy that goes by the Twitter, you know, Thomas, who does the Amazing Chevy Volt Twitter handle, I mean, he's like at a 99 percentile, I think, electric versus gas. That's better than I ever did when I was driving a hybrid garage. I mean, I ended up killing batteries on my old ICE car because I wouldn't drive it. And, you know, that's when I'm like, you know what, it's time to sell that sucker.
And we have
as far as, go ahead.
One of our members, believe his name is Ari. He actually drove his Volt around FedEx Field, which is the Redskins baseball stadium, at like some ridiculous slow speed, like 25 miles an hour, to see how many miles he could go. I don't even know what it took him a long time, but because there's a loop, there's a circle around the stadium when it's not in use, and he eked out a lot of miles.
And there's a charging station there. The point was he would bring it all the way down and then charge it up when he ran out. And
yeah, no, that's cool. No, I mean, look, Sean Mitchell, who at the time was forming ran the Denver club and is now, you know, realtor and does a lot of YouTube stuff. Sean did a stunt a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, with his Model S, where he drove around Denver. There's a supercharger that's close to the Denver airport, and he did that 35 miles an hour, right?
Lost audio.
I think we lost Dennis.
Oh, did we lose? We lost your audio, Dennis.
Lost his audio.
Dennis, you're not coming through.
Oh. I thought it was me.
I don't think he's muted. I think he lost.
No, he's not.
Oh no, he
Well,
is.
He is now.
So somehow the digital audio
Can we
died.
chat with him?
You can unmute him.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's going to call in.
Okay.
You gotta know your American sign.
It's strange it would just die like that, but
Yeah, it is. But I mean, the nice thing about Zoom is they got a phone number. You can dial in the phone. You can.
yeah.
Oh. Even when I try to, something must happen to us because when I try to unmute him, it doesn't let me.
Well, no, when you try to unmute someone, they still have to give you permission.
Oh, I see. Right. Here he comes. I think he's coming in by phone now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to do it this way instead. Yeah. So Sean Mitchell, I was saying, did this a few, like 3-4 years ago, where he drove around the supercharger by Denver Airport and achieved like 400 something miles. So it's crazy stuff we do, but the times now are a little different. There still are obviously new. There continues to be new people that come in that don't know where things are, and you just got to educate them. So that's one thing that's at the top of your mind that you need to help with. But sometimes you approach people and people aren't nearly as friendly as they used to be, right? I mean, you have people that just move from a nice car to their first EV and think they already know everything about it and don't want to hear about it versus the way things were in 2012, 2013, 2014, when a lot more of us were, it was a novelty. It was a community, regardless of what EV you drove, that you care about that. And there was a time, it was kind of funny. We ended up all Tesla because at the end of the day, we like luxury, and you have to define luxury because really at the end of the day, a 2013 S, it's not very luxurious in the interior, but we define it as coolest tech, right? I mean, I'm a tech background, so I liked it that way, and the biggest freaking battery, so I can go as far as I can without worrying about it. Because at late 2013, early 2014, level 2 stations were getting sucked up right and left because we have a lot of old Clipper Creeks that were installed for free, and everybody wanted to charge for free. I mean, if you're not going to charge for your fuel, you end up queuing up for these things. And there are a lot more people that have taken on Leafs and Volts and Teslas, and we were all contending for it. So my thought was, okay, fine, I'll have enough to just do my drive and get home and charge at home, or do the superchargers, and nobody else can use it anyway, and there weren't that many Teslas. I mean, they only had like 6 stalls in Hawthorne, which was the only supercharger, and that was fine. I mean, everybody just went in. You didn't have lines back then, right? You just plugged in, you got what you needed, and you went on, or you went all the way up to 100% if you wanted. It didn't matter. It's your battery. If it degrades, it degrades, right? So
you probably didn't have a lot of people working there that owned them because of the price, but now it's probably a different story, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, they've opened up one Hawthorne supercharger, which were urban, by the city hall and by some new hotel complexes there, which probably fills up when Tesla has an event. And then the permits were just sent out for a set. For those of you that have attended events at the site, there's a parking lot that people normally park at over at Lowe's, and they're installing, I think, V3 superchargers in that area. And I think someone said it's like 12 or 16 over there. So yeah, within the complex, real close, there's a lot of superchargers in that side of town. I mean, there's a lot of superchargers all over Southern California, but there's also a lot more people that have purchased these vehicles that are meant to use public charging. I mean, people that don't have access to a garage, for example, right? I mean, people in apartments or they may have a condo complex that they don't have their own parking, so they don't have them. I mean, a lot of the people that are doing these multi-unit housing things, when they start pricing out their charging, and you're looking at it, wow, that's pretty pricey. I mean, compared to the cost of electricity, it's not like they're covering that cost. They're definitely amortizing the cost of the equipment in there too.
Mm-hmm. So if we talk about like tritium, I've actually never used one of the stations, but I believe I'm not sure if it's Royal Farms or Charge. Maybe there was a relationship with ChargePoint did you work a deal with them or something, or?
Tritium's first 2 years in the U.S. was an exclusivity with ChargePoint. So it was synonymous with ChargePoint at the time. And funny enough, Tritium's original color scheme was orange, which made it even, more confusing because people thought that Tritium was ChargePoint and ChargePoint was Tritium. And those guys, see, I put your little sticker right here, by the way. I didn't put my club one over here, which is where I usually put it. Yeah, so Tritium, had an agreement, and basically ChargePoint deployed all the Tritium chargers in North America at the time. And in your area, Royal Farms is definitely one of the locations that have used them originally. And having been in charge of operations, I can tell you that there's a cabs in Washington D.C. that use them. There's 2 stations to share from the cabs there, and a few others, right, that are available. So the Tritium chargers were sold to anyone else outside of the rest of the world. So they built a lot of the chargers, in fact, all the chargers, until we started doing them in Torrance, California. They built them in Brisbane and shipped it to the rest of the world, right? So you get all the parts in, you build it there, and then you send it out. And we had to service those things for ChargePoint, and basically ChargePoint was the main customer for Tritium up until the time that they were hiring us. So my job was created, my opportunity was created to build up the business when the exclusivity was ending, right? They wanted someone to take on, and they needed to maintain the presence in the U.S. They needed to keep a customer. They were just not exclusive, and it gave them the opportunity to sell to others, such as Green Lots and EVgo and whoever, right? Whoever wants a station, they can sell it to them. And that's kind of what created the opportunity. And the thing is, they look at it with a lens of Australian, so they didn't know how to form a U.S. business. They didn't know how to run it or the like. And, they would think about it doing things Australian. There's some funky things that Australians do that, would be bad for us to do. And quite frankly, culturally speaking, if we're going to operate a business in California, some of the things that you can get away with in Australia, you'd probably get in trouble in California. So, like humor and the like, right? And it could be funny, but it could be offensive. So it's good to have someone local to help build that. Built the structure so that we can hire people quickly, and had to explain to Australians, yes, there are differences when you hire a person in California versus hiring a person in Maryland, hiring a person in Connecticut or Rhode Island or wherever. I mean, wherever you hire people, you got to follow the laws in those states for those employees. So you got to keep track of those things and that sort of stuff. So I was involved because I was in charge of everything to keep the business running, except for sales and marketing. That's why I had operations. We had a VP of sales that did that. And they hired him, or they were talking to him 2 weeks prior to talking to me about the job. Otherwise, I was telling them, look, I can run the whole thing. Just have sales and marketing. But at that point, when they hired me, we had it bifurcated. So that's kind of what I did for the 2 years, is build that team together and stuff.
So when I look at because my experience was a Royal Farms, but they had an FSEC. That's the name of the manufacturer?
No, FSEC is different.
This is the Royal Farms that I went to, and they.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying, why is theirs so big and the Tritium is so much smaller? I mean, is there stuff outside of it, or?
Well, it's because of the way that the inverters and everything's built, right? Everything that the guys in Brisbane built were built from the history that they had. The main part of it is the inverter, right? The inverters in the Tritium are much smaller than the competitors, because the guys at Tritium had dominated the market for over a decade, if not 15 years. It's a very specialized market. It's the market for solar electric cars. So they came from the vehicle side, and move those inverters into chargers. So weight is a very important factor when you're running a solar electric car. So the three founders actually came in third. I think it's in the '99 World Solar Challenge. They do this in Australia all the time, where they run in the outback and they drive for hundreds of kilometers. I think 600 kilometers, and all powered by the sun. So the guys at Lightyear, who have this car that's coming out, they just did well with a 4-passenger vehicle that they're looking to sell. They did that like a year ago or 2 years ago or something, right? But the inverters that most people used for their vehicles were the tritium converters. And really, what is fast charging? Fast charging is basically just the inverse of what you're doing with solar. I mean, you're just dumping the power back into a battery. So you're just going AC right into DC. So they built it that way. So they had a lot of experience with things and they started off with looking at things much smaller. So for them to get that power level and the like, they looked at it and they had the benefit of coming in later, because all the tritium fast chargers are dual standard, right? So you have CHAdeMO and you have CCS.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't spend the time. I mean, look, those old DBT ones that Nissan was giving away for free. It's great that they were free to the people installing them, but if they started charging for maintenance, they would have made up money. It's just like razors, right? You give away the razors because you sell the blades for so much more. I mean, this is all theoretical for me, because this is me after 70 or 79 days of isolation, and really it's closer to 180 days or whatever, right? So
So has anybody used? Oh, yeah. Has anybody here online use one of those with the tritium? If they're thinner,
I have.
and aren't they like liquid cooled? Aren't they like liquid cooled? Something's liquid cooled inside of them.
I don't know.
It's liquid cooled.
It is, yeah. I mean, I've used them. I went down to Fully Charged Live, which I think you were at also, Dennis. And
yep.
And then on the way back in Georgia, there was one at a Chick-fil-A that I used. But and then I've used them in like Hagerstown. There's 2 of them at the shopping mall there, and they've always seemed to be.
Should be 4 in Hagerstown.
Okay, well, 4 now. Yeah. Maybe there were 2 at the time, but are they reliable? Because see, the thing is, what I've never understood is you go to a DC fast charger and it's just broken or something. And the thing is, it's either software, so maybe the software is not working, or there's hardware. So what breaks on them? Because it's an entirely stationary object. I mean, it's not like, is it weather or aging or thermal cycling?
Typically, cables are abuse of cables is one of the things that happens a lot, right? For them. I mean, in general, and in the particular 50 kilowatt models, the cables aren't liquid cooled. It's only the unit itself inside cooling the electronics, because it's rated and can handle the 50 kilowatts. When you get up to 350 kilowatt DC, which is what EA is deploying here in our part of the world, Ionity in Europe, and of course some of the other ones I've already put in 350s and 150s as well. I think EVgo has one between Vegas and LA. Those cables actually are liquid cooled, so there's liquid going through them. But what happens is heat is the enemy of a lot of electronics, and typically the tritium vehicles are a lot more reliable than non-liquid cooled ones. The same reason, if you look at it in EVs, degradation on a Leaf versus someone else's, car that has liquid cooling tends to be better, because you try to keep the temperatures in a good range. But what could happen is if you block the radiators, because there's a radiator in the bottom of them, right? So one of the things you would notice is, or hear, is the fans going underneath, and it removes the heat and cools down the rest of the electronics that's on there. It actually runs right through the whole thing. There's tubing inside when you see them when you open them. We're getting into proprietary stuff, so I can't tell you exactly what parts and the like, but that's kind of where they are. And if you find someone servicing them, that's usually what they service. But there's also a reason why you would put multiples in locations. I mean, one of the projects that I was involved in helped win the north-south corridors for California because back in 2015 or 2016, I think it was 2015, or no, 2016. There was a California bid. California was late in helping complete the West Coast Electric Highway, and the client I had won a third of the highway routes because I proposed, guess what, something that's common nowadays, primary and backup fast chargers. Right, here's the budget that you're supposed to spend for. Let's spend it on 2 of these things, right? I mean, one will break. No matter whose unit it is, it will break. It's guaranteed because it's electronics and it's in the public and people abuse them. I came from a telecom background, right? I mean, I'm used to running things at 5 nines. You can't do that without spending a boatload of money for a charging network. And frankly, most of those companies don't make any money. So it's a matter of, okay, do you want to run out of money with less deployed or more deployed? I mean, like how Blink got picked up, right? Pennies on the dollar. Of course, they didn't hit the 30 amps they were supposed to hit, but happens.
Dennis, question.
Oh, there's a question.
Yeah, with respect to damage and reporting down stations, I've had countless conversations with folks where, I just ran into a leaf driver and at a charge point station, and there's only one station, and there's no way to really tell before you get there that it's out of commission. And now you've got somebody who's got limited range, and I got to get 20, 30 miles to the next destination without knowing ahead of time. Do you have any sort of a system for that?
Yeah. So unfortunately, it's just like Tesla stations back in the day before they reported they were out, right? It's all user reported, because some of the outages may not pop up in the monitoring. I mean, the thing about DC fast charge is at least they're all, almost all for pay, right? You have to charge people for them. And any of the ones that take any money from the government requires that they be smart, which is fine, because then you use the back channels to monitor them. But you also have to rely on the units that you have, that you're monitoring, be reporting what you're looking for. I mean, luckily in Tritiums they do, but it's the same thing. It's like whether the unit's reporting to the customer, because if you look at Tritium as a manufacturer, the customer is not the end driver. The customer is the charging network provider that buys buys the units. And in some cases, those site hosts, the customer might have a site host that is their customer, and they push on the responsibility for reporting the troubles or maintaining it first to that customer, right? I mean, unless they pay a special package, in which case, okay, then they'll dial in and connect to it, because there's a cost for the data. And luckily the cost of data, and going back to IoT and the like, is going down, right, significantly. But there was a time when it wasn't, and originally these things were deployed with 3G, and then 3G gets decommissioned from AT&T, then you got to go to LTE, and then you got to figure out how to do it. It's like the Teslas where they're charging you for changing your modem and then charging you for the service. It's unfortunately a lot of these, my suspicion, a lot of these things aren't expected to last what they say that it'll last for. And it's because they've planned obsolescence. They figure they'll outlast either the customer, or if the customer ends up making money, then they'll need to go buy some stuff later on anyway, right? So the technology is too fast moving. Except for the only thing that's staying pretty consistent is level 2, because it's kind of hit its peak. We hit our peak at 80 amps, and then everyone's going back down. I mean, Tesla only makes 48 amp chargers now, even though there's a lot of competitors that are still making larger battery vehicles, and they've all accepted the 30 amp standard. So why would Tesla go any further than that? They're still kicking their butts if they go at 48 amps.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh
right?
man, I hate that I can only get 11 kilowatt hours. I got a CS100, man. Can I just get all the charge?
Yeah. Look, I've got dual charges in my apps, and I've run 80 amps a few times. I mean, even at home, I have 56 amps pulled in because the cost to run the cable was $2,000 at the time it was getting installed, and to do the 70, to do the 56 kilowatt, 56 amp one was a lot cheaper. So I just went ahead and did that and said, you know what, the few minutes that I save per hour, it's fine. I mean, I did it on 30 amps for most of the time anyway. My old ChargePoint CT500, which I got installed with my BMW, was running up until last November. Finally gave out. It's probably a low voltage power supply. I just haven't had time to pull it out and replace it.
Well, I remember that unit. Was that a connected unit too? Was that connected?
Yeah, no, it was it was required to be connected because I got it under grant and they were doing the studies, and it ran off of, I think, CDMA, like 3G CDMA, and the monitoring ended, and they, that's right when they came out with the ChargePoint Home, and they were giving discounts to people. Oh, replace it with a ChargePoint Home. I'm like, yeah, it's not, it doesn't matter. It was nice to see the features to be able to keep track of the data, but at the end of the day, I get that on the car anyway, that it's getting charged. Right. So why would I worry about it? And it kept working. It worked like a beast. I kept asking the guys I knew at ChargePoint, professionally, it's like, hey, I got the CT500. You guys have any hack I can do to, change the modem or plug it in? Their answer was always just buy the ChargePoint Home. But something I would tell them is time to do something with equipment.
Well, I mean, I will say, with the CS100, as I mentioned, that's a Clipper Creek. Had it since 2010, man. Still works just like a charm. Simple technology. It lasts. But the other thing is, I was going to ask you, Dennis, if I may, do you guys have TOU, time of use, over there?
Yes. So for my setup at home, I'm a big Tesla fan, right? Some would say a fanboy, but, the problem with the fanboys nowadays is that they've outlasted the way that I'm a fanboy of Tesla. I mean, people are really crazy nowadays and, worship everything that Elon says. And, I'm there with a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that, I let Elon do his thing, and I won't criticize him publicly for things I don't agree with, but I don't agree with everything. But then again, I can say the same thing about a lot of people. I don't agree with everything everybody does, but I try to be reasonable. But as far as time of use, I've got power walls. My power walls, the 3 of them, were installed the week after Elon's was installed in Bel Air, because half the team that was here were on his project. And they had a lot more people here than they needed because they were training people when they were installing it at our house. And this was in 2017. It was in August of 2017 when they got mine installed. And I didn't get permission to operate until a year and a half later, because Tesla didn't really follow what the utility wanted them to do, and they had to fight with them, and and I ended up being in the middle. It doesn't matter. It was working the whole time, so I was using it. But we have a 3 tranche rate during the week, 2 during the weekend. So on the weekend it's off peak, but they're super off peak. It starts at 10 o'clock and ends at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well,
it used to be
my super off peak, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. I got to fit all my charging in that 4-hour window.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, except for us, they built it so that people can charge with a level 2 or level 1 and do it for, over 120. So you don't have to install a 240 volt service or 240 volt EVSE. But yeah, so I mean, with time of use, I've been shaving things off because our peak now goes, it used to be from 12 to 6, but you guys have heard about a duck curve and stuff, and that really just exacerbates that. So they moved it from 2 to 8. So it's guaranteed that you will, if all you have is solar without batteries, even though you're producing all this, by the time 6 o'clock rolls around in the winter, you're paying peak for at least 2 hours. So I've gone away with that with the power wall, where really rarely do I have any usage at peak times. But the peak time here in Southern California, in Edison, is about 50 cents a kilowatt hour for 6 hours. So, it just happens that way that I'm able to do it with the batteries. But if I were to do the math, and I've done the math, it wasn't a logical financial reason to do so. That wasn't enough to do it to save it. It's really when they get rid of net meter, or it's because I have net metering to the other side of it too. Because when I'm overproducing at the peak, I'm getting credited, so I'm using the grid as my battery. But it was just fortuitous that with these threats of rolling blackouts, that I'd be at least prepared for that. But knock on wood, right now we've been good that we haven't been affected by it. But I've seen it pop up where we've had blackouts, but it's usually been because of a service outage. Something happened, pole went down or whatever.
But Dennis, I've got a question.
Sure.
I've got a juice plug which I got from and then there's this JuiceNet, and so you can
eMotorworks, right?
Yeah, which is now NLX, I think, right?
Yeah.
But you can actually get a signal from the power company that tells you the instantaneous price. Is that true? And because in JuiceNet you can do that, and then you can set a trigger and like charge when the price drops below a certain amount. Do you use that? Or okay?
I don't have the eMotorworks product because we're not going the way the Texans are. So in Texas, they've got utilities that are a lot more competitive, especially the members of ERCOT, right? If you're in Austin, it's like what we do here, where you've got a regulated utility, so you don't have a choice. But parts of Texas allows them to do that. So you could theoretically, I don't know anyone that uses the JuiceNet in Texas, but that's exactly where the right use case would be, where the prices of there's some people in the UK, for example, where they're what is it, the one from Geordie Brompton's company, My Energy UK, right, where they charge
the Zappy
negative. They're getting paid to take energy from the grid.
Yeah, right? I wanted to bring the Zappy here.
Yeah, exactly. The Zappy, Happy Zappy. That's it. Yeah. So, well, I can tell you that the Zappy, that the My Energy UK publicly has in the crazy few months moved into larger facilities and are building more and more units. So that much I know publicly. And I'm sure it's not just to fill European market, right? They got a fun-looking product and stuff. Jordy's a great lady, really good leader. But yeah, so I mean, I think at the end of the day, there are applications for that. It's just you got to have utilities that are participating in that. And at the moment, for us here, we don't go negative. It's a fully regulated utility, so. But we do have those time of use rates, so we use that. And I mean, I remember when JuiceNet was first released, it was because of virtue kind of applications, right? They had partnered with I forgot the name of the startup, but it was a startup that came out of, I think, UC Davis, where they looked at the cleanest times to charge, and it allowed you to set up your charger so that it will charge when it's clean.
Yeah.
So there's no, minimize the use of fossil fuel peaker plants. In Southern California, I don't know if it's happening out there in Maryland, but here a lot of those plants are going away, and they're adding battery storage so that the peaks are run by commercial battery. You don't know whether energy's coming from one or the other. And there's talks about obviously aggregating those of us that have batteries to help into that. And I mean, frankly, I've got enough capacity to handle me here, and it takes me 2 days to fill up my batteries. I ended up buying too many batteries than what my solar produces. If I didn't use any of the power that comes from my panels in the peak of summer, when the panels are clean and everything else is aligned properly, I can fill up all my 40.5 kilowatts in one blow. But typically it takes me several days to do so if it was flat. So I got to maintain it that way. And I set the backups and all that sort of stuff so that it does that. But, lately with AC and the like, when it gets too hot, my consumption's been been closer to 48% of the battery, which means I'm cycling it to the points where I need to satisfy the, there's something called the SGIP program, which allows credit from the state to buy batteries that are connected to your solar. And the requirement is you have to cycle through 100% of your battery per week. And I'm doing that now. I mean, I was artificially doing that. And, right now we've got more people at the house than we've had since the start of quarantine for personal reasons. We have family members that moved in with us because it was safer for them to be with us rather than the normal places. Mm-hmm. We have medical members in the family, so we move people around that need to be exposed.
There was a question about 13 minutes ago, and I missed it on the chat. It says from Bob, do you have mean time between failure stats? What was that related to? I forgot.
Probably tritium, right? On the fast charger?
Tritium, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those stats I am not at liberty to share.
Okay.
First of all, I've seen different conflicting stats, so I don't want to give the wrong stats. And, I think it depends on which unit, and they've got multiple lines now that are built. Tritium also is the primary supplier for fast chargers for Ionity in Europe. So a lot of the first 350 kilowatt units have been deployed in Europe and have been supplied by Tritium for that. They also are the first supplier to get ISO 150118 certified as far as manufacturer. So what that is many of us that drive Teslas and supercharge know you just plug in and charge. It's the plug and charge standard. But obviously you need to get the OEMs, the car manufacturers, and the charging networks to jump in on it. But the equipment works based on the way the standard is written.
Mach-E is advertising that from what I've seen. They're advertising the capability, so I don't know what, any other questions for Dennis?
I had a question. So we were talking about thermal management before, and how do they have vents on the bottom? Because I know that there was an issue. I don't know if it was with the tritiums or not, but snow would get piled against them, and then that would cause issues.
So the vents,
is that an issue?
The vents are on the bottom. That could be an issue, but in general, because that's where the heat is also sent out, when the snow piles in there, it typically melts it away. I mean, that's how you can tell it's a tritium. You see a lot of photos. See, the tritium RTs, which are the 50 kilowatts, was the #1 selling DC fast charge in Norway. So it has a lot of experience in the snow. And it's just a matter of how they build it in parking lots. And you can see a lot of them that have been cleared in the light, right? That's the other thing that happens at times. If the site doesn't build it right and doesn't put bollards in there, when someone's clearing snow, they knock those suckers over. It's gone. That's not a warranty repair. So it's an expensive way to learn on how to build those things for dispensing. But you put these in a parking lot, and you got a guy with a plow. He's not going to pay attention whether there's a charger there, and you got to make sure that they care of it. But no, if the unit has energy and it generates heat, it melts away and gives it space. Right?
Okay.
I got a question. I got a question about demand charges. Do you
Sure.
In California, is the issue of demand charges going down? Is there more EVs? And also in Europe, do they have something like demand charges?
Yeah, so demand charges are an issue with any DC fast charge provider. Last I've heard, there's a special EV tariff that passed. I don't remember which utility here in California, but I was in a webinar where they were talking about demand charge mitigation to get to further adoption. And no, I mean, unfortunately, it's a matter of working with the utilities and getting them to understand and be forward thinking. Some utilities are forward thinking, and they do jump in and understand that they will benefit by becoming the fuel provider of the future. So they got to sucker people in now and figure out how to spread that out instead of getting being greedy with the way things are set up. It's just the way the system's at. It didn't expect to, which is a good reason why you would locate yourself at at commercial properties that are like supermarkets or grocery or the like, because all the energy that they're using for the refrigeration and everything, 50 kilowatts is nothing. Even 350 kilowatts is nothing, right? But if you put it in the middle of a highway where there's nothing there, all the numbers are against you because there's no electricity being used in that location, and suddenly you're spiking it up. So yeah, that's a big part of the challenge on deployment. I mean,
Is it the same in Europe as well?
I don't remember. I mean, I think there have been problems, but it seems like they've been able to mitigate it for a lot more of those places. So I wouldn't say that demand charges do not exist in Europe, because I distinctly remember hearing about it, but I think it's less of a problem because they have had better deployment, and you've got governments that have been more friendly toward accelerating adoption of electric vehicles. I mean, take a look at what happened in Germany this past week, right? I mean, they just doubled their EV credits and everything to get everything going for, as stimulus because of coronavirus.
And I read something where they're going to have chargers at every gas station or something in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing is, Shell bought Greenlots and BP bought ChargeMaster, and they did that a few years ago as a test, I'm sure, to see what they can do, and they're perfectly poised to start doing that. I mean, these guys still have a lot of money. I mean, their valuations will start dropping like flies, but while they have the capital, they're making the pivot that they think they need to do, and that's only reasonable. I mean, everyone's fighting for their own survival, and they've got a lot more to start from. So
yeah.
So
Well, they have the locations, first of all.
Same time, ExxonMobil is investing a lot in batteries because they see the writing on the wall.
One of the things that's public that's happened with Tritium, one of the investors that came in when I was still with them, and it was publicly announced, I'm not sharing anything non-public, was Gilbarco Veeder-Root, which makes over half the gas pumps around the world, right? They're one of the main providers of the actual gas pumps. So yeah, they're an investor in Tritium, and they're doing that for very good reasons, right? They understand that gas may not be pumped in the future. If hydrogen's getting pumped, then maybe they have a play there because it's still a fuel. But if it's electricity, now they have a play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had another question about California, and that's that the issue of multifamily charging, multifamily housing, or on-street parking, and on-street parking, people who can only park on street, I would imagine that's more of an issue here than in California, but multifamily housing is an issue there, and kind of equity and making sure that low to moderate income folks can have access to electric. So is that kind of an active subject in California? And
yeah, so
are the utilities involved in that to your satisfaction?
I mean, some utilities are, but I mean, the government has created programs to try to help with that, right? I mean, LA City has the Blue EV, which unfortunately the parent or the subsidiary out in France went under, but there's a car sharing EV platform called LA Blue, which I think is also in Indy, that is focused on low income neighborhoods so they can share these cars. For private ownership, the California rebate for buying an electric is income measured. So if you're below a certain level, you actually get, the original level was $2,500 regardless of income, and you got that if you had a 3-year lease or you bought the vehicle, right? The thing that they've balanced out now is it's income tested. If you're over, I think 300,000 is I think the limit, you get nothing. If you're below a certain amount, instead of 2,500, you end up getting I think 4,000, if I remember correctly, from the state, right, to help buy the vehicle. Now, granted, a lot of those are still focused, I believe, on new vehicles, but some of the utilities like Edison, if you're in their region, even if you bought a used EV, we'll give you a rebate. It used to be $750 when the program first started. I think it's up to $1,000. So you can stack these. They don't take away from each other. So there are things on there. As far as public charging, there was actually a program that not necessarily did it in terms of income, but did it in terms of air quality. But if you look at the correlation between poor air quality and income, it correlates quite a bit, right? Your poorer neighborhoods tend to be closer to industrial locations that tend to have more polluted air. Mm-hmm. So there was a program that allowed people to start installing, and they got more money out of installing fast chargers near those areas, right? So you either got up to, I think, 70,000 for a project of up to four DC fast chargers in areas that didn't have this bad air quality, and then you got like up to 100,000. I mean, my numbers might be off, but it's that kind of percentages is what you should look at. It's like a 30% bump or 25% bump to put a unit in an area that is disadvantaged. Maybe it's 10,000. Either way, it's more money for going into disadvantaged areas. And they call it air quality because it came in from the air quality legislation, right? So that's why they were focused on that. And like I said, there is correlation. It's not direct on there, but there are definitely people that are addressing equity. The other side of that is, look, not everybody can afford to purchase personal vehicles at any cost. So to address that equity problem, there's pushes, and there's been success in employing and deploying electric buses, right? I mean, the electrification of heavy-duty fleet is going to help everyone and the like. So that's kind of where that is. And you're seeing better statistics, better usage and the like from the transit agencies that have done so. And they're testing them, getting them ready. And they're fuel agnostic. I mean, if hydrogen comes in and becomes a better fuel for them, they'll do that. But the thing is that in that market is you got to build in 12 years into the whole metric, because that's what they expect these things to last. And we don't know. I mean, Proterra's done a good job. BYD's done a great job. I mean, you can look at their deployments across the world, and there's a few other entrants that have been making coaches and for ICE and have moved on and the like. And you're looking at the guys that are doing last mile too, like Amazon. They're looking to electrify with the Rivian's investment and other things. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to point out is that talk about what California's got. I was very proud that Virginia, we put 4 electric school bus bills through the General Assembly. They all failed. That's not something to be proud of. But we also have a bill to study rebates for used electric cars because, of course, it's so hard for, low-income people to afford a new electric car. Used electric cars, getting those to the people that need them the most would be awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, what was it? Georgia and Colorado, I think, had used them there. So maybe it was Colorado had it, and Georgia had that $14,000. There was a time we could get leaf practically free, right, in Georgia. It was kind of like the reason, maybe I should move to Georgia for a little while. But now it's been awesome.
So Dennis, do you have a show and tell item?
Yeah. So I remember you bringing that up.
Yeah. Oh. Did you see that? Was that laying somewhere?
Or was it this way?
Yeah.
So this is.
Did you obtain that from somebody who wasn't charging properly?
So when we got the Roadster, so my wife drives a Roadster. Complete the story of why Tesla. So in 2013, I kept pushing back Tesla from having us finalize it because I didn't want to have a Tesla for my wife. I was trying to compete with Tom Malogany for the miles and the like, but we wanted to take delivery not in February of 2013, but later on in the year before the end of the year to minimize the time in between the federal tax credit and and waiting for it. So I'm like, I want to target November, but remember back then it took them several months to do the build. So my wife and I, it was going to be her car. The S was her car, and I was going to get whatever EV I can find, which was fine. And we couldn't decide on panel roof or hard roof, right? Because I'm short, but my torso is big. So if I were in the back seat, my head would rub right on the hard roof, whereas in the panel I had a little room. And we have a couple of members of our family that are 6 foot and taller, that if they were riding with us, my wife and I make it a policy to ride in the front if it's our car, regardless of how tall the people are. So they go in the back, and I'm like, oh, it's a little nicer for them if you got the panel roof. We spent a little too much time at the website in August when we were finalizing for November delivery, that my wife clicked on something called the certified pre-owned, and she saw it, and she saw a Roadster, and she said, that's my car. I don't care what you do with the roof for the Model S, that's your car, but I'm getting that one. So we got the Roadster for it. We were originally going to get number 78, which is signature green, and we ended up with number 40, which actually didn't have. So the cars had a plate that usually tell you who the owner is. I like 78 because it was a tech and telecom industry president that originally owned it, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, kind of a celebrity.
What color? Hey, Dennis. What color was the
Yeah.
interior? What color was the interior on the green car? Was it red?
Cocky.
What's that?
Brown. Cocky brown.
Yeah, because we know somebody, or Kurt here, who he had a blue one, but he got into an accident. But then he bought a signature green from somebody in California. So I don't know. I don't know if that's it, but
I think he's 55.
Yeah, the original one we were looking at was black interior, so we went to a nicer interior.
Well, Mel's got Starman Roadster there.
Nice red one, huh?
Yeah.
Jeff said Kurtz is 55.
Yeah, so when we got the car, it was basically going to be her car, and 78 ended up having a motor line, so we ended up switching to 40 because they were going to give it the same price, and it had a lot less miles. So it had 2,200 miles on it, 2,220, and it turned out that the reason they took the plaque off, they told us, was because the plaque was to protect the identity of the previous owner. I'm like, the heck? Who is it? Someone in the CIA or whatever? Turned out, after I brought the car into service, a day after I picked it up, because what happened was when they delivered the car to us, it was certified pre-owned. It was Labor Day weekend. We drove it all over the place. Visited the family, showed off the car. We brought it home, plugged it into level 2 that night, and it didn't charge. So I'm like, oh wow, what's going on here? Figured it out. Got to plug it into on 120, so it was charging, trickle charging. We knew we didn't want to brick the battery because that's an expensive thing, and that's not covered. When I brought it in after the holiday to Tesla, the first thing the guys tell me when they saw the car, oh, you're the guy that bought Matt Damon's car. So the car that my wife drives used to be Matt Damon's. I mean, now it's the Pascual mobile, not the formerly known as Matt Damon's car. So that was kind of where it's at. But one of the things that's hard to charge for that car is obviously it's got a proprietary port, and you can't drive it anywhere. It's got a level, the level 2 plug that we had at home. It's got a hard and bulky. And I was looking through TMC, and Tony Williams was showing how he cut off the heads off of the original Model S UMC and made it J1772. And then I saw the thing from Henry Sharp that did a better adapter for J1772 than Tesla's, because Tesla had, plugged it in and there was this tail that you had to do, and it was kind of bulky. And my wife didn't have much room in the trunk of her car, and she started driving that car everywhere. So it was her daily driver. So I wanted to make sure she had a bag to carry around with plugs on it. So I quickly PM'd Tony at the time at Tesla Motors and said, look, I'm a technical guy, but I only play one on TV. I'm really in management now. I see all the wires that you do, but can I just pay you to cut this for me and do the thing? And he did. And he, you know, he's in San Diego, so he just mailed it to me, and he mailed me he said, just order these parts for me, send it to my house, send me your address, and I'll send you everything else. And he sent this along with my, with the bag that he had. And now Tony, obviously, for those of you that have been in space for a while, you know, is obviously running Quick Charge Power. So I was one of the first Quick Charge Power customers before he was even Quick Charge Power, because I think there was a time he was still a pilot, and, you know, was just doing it as a favor, and, you know, charged me a few bucks to have it done. And, you know, I like to think that I probably inspired him to do that. And it also gave us the feeling that my wife not only got a J1770 from Henry Sharp in the back of a Roadster, but, you know, should she find herself with an EMA 1450 or 650 or even a 120 volt, she could charge her car with the bag in there. That being said, that was back when we were driving Active E and we were worried about plugging in and everything. And we've since taken that stuff out of the car, and now it's got room for a golf bag like it usually does. And, you know, it's pretty fun. So that's the show and tell item. The little head for the Model S, because I thought, you know what will I do with this? It's just the show and tell thing.
Great. Who's next? Who's got a show and tell item that they want to show?
Hey, I was just
Quick
gonna.
question.
Oh,
Mel, yeah, please.
Sure.
go ahead.
Hi. So what was the what was the deal with the Roadster that it didn't charge?
The PEM. So what happens
okay.
is at the annual clean, you know, at every annual service, they disconnect the PEM and they clean it, right? They clean something. They clean the connector or whatever.
Right.
And if the connector failed or something like that, we basically got a refurb PEM right off the start, which, you know, one of my first questions is, okay, so what do I budget for? How much is that? $10,000 typically from Tesla for refurb when it fails. And it's got a higher likelihood of failing during annual service. So what I always tell anybody that's in the market to buy a used Roadster, it's great, but make sure to put aside 10 grand a year, just in case the PEM fails, right? That being said, if you live close to Arizona, live close to Gruber, or in Washington, close to Medlock, or even
Right.
here in Southern California, we have a new guy, Javier, who a lot of the guys here swear by. Those guys can fix the thing for you for cheaper than that. I mean, but I've always made it a point to try to save 10 grand a year just in case for the Roadster. I mean, it's not
I'm lucky. I haven't had any PEM failures. I'm pretty lucky, I guess.
For that particular one, we got it certified pre-owned from Tesla at the bottom of the sale because everybody turned in their Roadsters for Model S's in summer of 2013. And, you know, that's had the PEM replaced twice or three times under warranty. I had 37 months warranty. It's got one more month than it had, or 37,000 miles. We don't even have 30,000 on it yet, but, you know, she's driven 28,000 miles on it since we got it.
Okay. One more quick question. You mentioned the Active E, the BMW Active E earlier. They were crushed.
Mm-hmm.
Was that
Yeah.
intentional that they were crushed, or?
Yeah, because it's what it is.
Wow.
Is, you know, they only had they only had the approval to run them as a test demo fleet, and I think with any test demo fleet, they're not allowed to leave them on the road, or they could, I suppose, import them to jurisdictions that don't, you know, that wouldn't enforce any of that stuff, which is, I think, what happened with some of the Mitsubishi IMEs, because Chelsea Sexton's a friend, and she had an IME that she had for a few years that was for Japanese style, and I think it's now in an island in the Pacific somewhere, living the rest of its days serving a government out there, because Mitsubishi moved it. But it's probably a lot cheaper to ship an IME because of the weight and everything else and the dimensions than it is to ship an Active E.
Yeah, that seems pretty wasteful. I mean, that's what the GM did, right? But yeah. Anyway.
Well, you know, they grabbed the batteries, they factored it into, you know, because the manufacturing that they do for the i3s were so much different than what they do with Active E's. The Active E had a modified 1 Series body that's not even exactly the 1 Series, because it's actually slightly smaller. So, you know, a lot of us have put our Active E's right beside 1 Series and say, oh, that's a little longer. So it's not exact. I mean, they could have just used the exact one, I suppose, but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they were all about the carbon fiber that they would press, and and weave for the body for the i3, and the batteries were smaller. And I know a lot of those batteries ended up getting reused. I saw there was an array of commercial battery installation that they have in New Jersey at the BMW campus that they use at their testing facility, and it's backed up by some old active E cells, and I think they've got some old i3 cells in there now too. So yeah, they didn't crush everything on it, but I mean the metal parts are supposed to crush in order to melt them away again and everything reuse.
Yeah.
It wasn't always going to landfill.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. And good luck with the roasters. Like I said, put aside some money because they get expensive to fix and everything. Hold on a second. Oh, thank you. I sent my wife a note saying this is supposed to be coffee in quarantine, and I didn't have a cup of coffee, so she got me a cup of coffee. Another show and tell, and a biscotti, but there you go.
Hey,
Jeffrey wanted to share his screen, so
yeah, thank you, Mark, because I just wanted to show the unit we're talking about. We were talking about the unit. I think I got it right here.
Can you share without me making you like host or how?
No, I should. I think there's an option that like you've got a little shield over there next to the participants where you can say what options are available to the participants.
Yeah, I think you have to let them have it or something.
It's just like make host. Is that?
No. It's not under, like you got participants right at the bottom, right next to it on the well, in this direction,
I think make presenter.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought everybody could just share their screen.
Well, no, it's
they used to, but that's what would happen when people got Zoom bombed and you get porn thrown on everybody's screen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
all
why
I'm
they
seeing
changed the
is
settings.
all I'm seeing is make host.
No, it's not there.
Stop video. I mean,
yeah, because there's like
I'm on a Mac too, so I don't know.
well, I'm on a Mac too, Mark. I mean, what you should see is like mute, then stop
mute.
video, and then a big space, and then like a shield, and then participants, chat, share screen. So the shield is the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any of that. Maybe I've got an older
I
version.
also have reactions. I have all of those in a reactions button.
Yeah. All right. Well, fair enough, Mark. So I can't share the screen, but go Google it. I mean, a great big orange charge point things. You can see what I'm looking at.
Okay. What does it? So does anybody else have a show and tell they want to show?
I do.
Okay.
Leilani.
Well, go ahead, Bob. Do yours.
Oh.
Bob has it.
The green screen.
Green screen effects.
Turn off the.
Yeah, thanks.
I were at the same.
Is that a box of cereal?
Slightly different events with Leilani, right?
Oh.
Yeah, that was. I think you were there, Jeff, when we were at the Montgomery Mall.
Yep.
So I got my client Leilani with lots of information.
Awesome.
Well, I gotta get back to.
Now you're in the tropics.
Yeah, I remember when you went out there.
Oh, Scott, you want to go next?
Yeah, I like historical EV things. So this is a medal that I got. I found it on eBay, and it's a little worn off. It's 5th annual convention, Philadelphia, and this is in 1914, and this is the Electric Vehicle Association of America. So I don't know if you can see, but this is their symbol. It was like a wheel, and around there it says Electric Vehicle A of A. And so this was a little kind of medal that this particular person wore. And this is in the early days of EVs when it was like it was basically kind of dealer organizations trying to promote EVs, and they were marketed to women. That's a big part of it, but they were also trying to spread it, more widely. And I mean, I've always been interested in how we're recapitulating the charging system, you know, if we're kind of duplicating what happened with gasoline. And so, you know, one has only to wonder if we had the grid that we have today back then, what would have happened. But
now, Scott,
uh-huh.
there appears to be a name on that. Have you tried to like do any kind of?
Oh yeah, he worked. I don't know what the P is, but Parkinson. Let's see. He worked for New York Edison, I believe, because his name. See, the great thing is on Google, books.google.com. They've scanned all of these early journals, and you can look up. You can get just a ton of information, and there's like Motor Age and Motor Wagon and Electrical Age and all these kind of trade journals from the turn of the century. So he was like a manager at New York Edison, and so that's all I know about him. But you know, I mean, it all depends on how much time you want to put into researching this, because even just looking at this, I looked it up and before today's meeting, and the reference, there are a lot of books about early electric vehicles, and so this turns out to be a resource at the Free Library of Philadelphia. They have an automobile reference collection, so I might run up there sometime, and it's in like downtown Philly at the Free Library, and I want to go check out and see what all's in this automobile reference collection. It might be kind of interesting.
Right.
I wish I could show you. I think it's in my garage. Juice plug. No, I have a juice plug.
Okay.
Juice plug. I got the juice plug right after I got my Tesla. I used to drive a Leaf. Would have been perfect for my Leaf, because the Leaf with the switch, you have to remember to turn off the time of use thing. If you go to a public charger, I've done that a couple of times where I forgot, and it's like, oh, it's been sitting there for 4 hours. It must be charged by now. Nope, didn't even start. So I got a juice plug right after, you know, they sent it to me right after I bought my Tesla. And it's like, this thing is limited to so many kilowatts, and I want my full 11. I finally got an 11.
I use my juice plug. My juice plug's hooked up right now, so I put a router out in the garage so it can link directly to it and send everything to the web. So,
Anybody else have something to show and tell? Come on, Mel. You've got to have something.
Hey, I've got a bunch of things. I've got a bunch of unique things.
Hold on a sec. I'll do Mel next, and then Arash, you can go after Mel.
There's my Starman painting on the wall.
Yep.
And this one, I doubt anyone has ever seen before. It's my Roadster bath mat.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I've never used it. And then the mini collection here. Got Roadster.
That's
This is Mark's Cybertruck.
Yeah. Paper one.
The Semi. Roadster, second gen Roadster. Model X, S. Vinyl wrapped Model 3.
Holy cow.
Semi truck. And then, this is this is a Citron EV.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. A friend of mine actually saw one of those in Europe.
Yeah, that's a Renault Twizy.
Twizy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is the BMW i8 prototype. And then a couple of 143 and Hot Wheels. That's it.
Oh.
Boy, it's a good thing you don't have to plug any of those in. Otherwise, you'd be draining quite a bit.
Ross, you ready? Oh. There he comes.
Yeah. Hey, guys. How are you guys? Long time no see. So I'm going to share a story. I don't know how, only my good friends know I have an addiction for cufflinks. So I'm going to show you guys what I mean by that. Let's see if I can show you. And I have a surprise for you guys at the end. So let's see if I can flip up the camera. Can I flip up the camera? No, I'll just do it like this. Can I flip up the camera or no? Can you guys see?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'll go slowly. So I have a fascination of cufflinks. And I collect them over the years, and I have cases of it. So I'm not wearing anything at work because we're not going to work. But usually when I go to work, I have a whole bunch of these crazy cufflinks, right? Like depending on where I'm at. And you can see like there's a shift gear, right? From a shift gear from here. There are some, if I'm in a USB drive mood, this is a USB drive. I don't know if you can, let's see. This is a USB cufflink. I don't know if you can tell or not. And then, so I have a lot of stuff. So like the little microchip card, and then it just goes on and on. So this fascination came from my dad. My dad gave me my first cufflink, and I'm looking for, I think it's this one. It's this one right here. It's a French cufflink. It's actually a little bit bigger. This is an automatic watch, and it actually opens up. So that fascination kind of evolved. So I have a whole bunch of cufflinks from that now. And the best cufflink that I wanted to show you guys was this one.
Little shield.
Yeah, so a little shield Roadster. Since we're talking about the Roadster, this is the actual logo for the Roadster, isn't it? On the front.
Yeah, on the 1.5s.
Yeah, on the 1.5. Yeah. So I don't think they changed it or not, but that's just something I wanted to show you guys. Not many people know about that. I have a fascination for it. But we have some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Real crazy stuff. Depending on what you're in the mood for. If you're in the mood, huh?
You should wear the Porsche ones in your Tesla and see if you get electrocuted.
Yeah, I don't know if I could or not. I have one that I just got a couple days ago. These are all custom made. So one is this one. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but let's see if I can. Here, so this is the hand. Can you see this?
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
the hand.
I
don't know if you can tell. Yeah, so when you snap your fingers, what happens? We all leave. So that's what I wanted to show. But I had some cool stuff from, mustaches to roses, some car stuff, ping pong, Star Wars or whatever,
Yeah, nice.
Cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure that
it grows. It grows. I have about 800. That's just 4K. I got 4 of the cases. So, yeah.
I'm sure there's some people that have like entire closets full of Tesla clothing too. I mean,
I think so. I'm sure they would. Yeah, I'm sure they would. But that's what I wanted to show you guys. So show and tell.
Yeah, I thought I had a lot of stuff like 40 to 50, but man, Rosh, when you go all in, man, you go all in.
Hey, I learned from a great leader, right?
Carbon fiber wrapped or anything.
What? I don't have any carbon fiber cufflinks, but I don't know. Right now I could create a carbon fiber. I'm actually working on I do sell these on the side, but honestly, it's just too much. These are just novelty things, If you like something, I can make it. I can do like a 3D printing, but I can do a mold and push it out and and kind of make the hard portion of it. But the carbon fiber, I can make a carbon fiber cufflink. It's just a matter of what size, what shape, how big. Because when you look on it on a shirt, you can't really make it any bigger than what it is. These are all normal cufflinks. So if you pick let's say this, right? Let's say if you pick this right here, this little doctor's thing, you can't make it as big as 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. There's some measurements on that, but yeah, no carbon fiber yet. But once I get it, Dennis, you'll be the first one to show.
Thanks, man. I was gonna figure out when to wear French cuffs, at home.
They're very expensive. But maybe I can sell all my cufflinks and get a Roadster, right?
Make sure to put next? 10 grand on me.
Who's next? Anybody?
I'll take it.
Jeffrey, your volume is really low, so I don't know if you can bump it up.
I have some background noise. Unfortunately, I sit near the air conditioning. It's blowing like crazy right now.
Oh, I see.
Is it better if I hold the mic up?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was trying to share when Dennis, I came in after the beginning, and Dennis was talking about the road trip to Ocean City. So a little Tesla road trip, Ocean City shot. But the fun stuff is some nifty.
The Gigafactory.
That'd be the Gigafactory. So this is maybe the first time I think I met you in person, Dennis.
Yeah, we were in the tour together, man.
Yeah. That'd be a semi, aka the Roadster reveal.
Yep.
Model Y reveal. And maybe the last time I think I've seen you in person, Dennis, was the Leadership Summit. October.
Yeah, I think the Y reveal was after.
Okay, that's what I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
so March
March
2019 Y reveal, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. So
that was a Y reveal, man. It's like I've been seeing James and Lisa a little bit, since they moved out here, but that's about it.
It's funny.
And I saw the tweet you just sent out.
that was pretty weak. I should have gotten you while you were smiling or something. I'm sorry.
Let's see, Bob. Bob was holding something up. Oh,
no, you want the one when the Gigafactory was being built? Do you want the visitor from when the Gigafactory was being built?
Wow.
Your collection?
Return to security.
Looks like that didn't quite make it back to security.
This is being recorded. You might edit that out.
Oh, that's all right.
They switched badges. That's why I got it.
That's awesome.
Cool.
What were you doing there when they were building the place?
My nephew was he was the engineer for the Powerwall, so I was visiting him, and we went to Sparks.
Cool. Let me show you mine. I bought a new toy. It's a Kickstarter. It goes in your car. I don't know if anybody's seen one of these. Let me turn it on. I loaded some things onto it. Let's see here.
Huh.
It does like emojis, and this is actually at like a very low setting, so it's really bright. But you can let's see if I can get the right angle here.
Yeah.
Wait. Here, let me get.
You're just in time for Southern Hemisphere Christmas.
Yeah. There's the Washington Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I created this one. That's a Tesla.
Oh, that's awesome.
If you're running into trouble, you can put that on.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one. Game over. Here's another Tesla. I'm gonna make these rotate somehow. There's a GIF thing, but I think you can only do it on the iPhone or on a Mac product. But this is my lighted T without actually destroying my car. It's.
That reminds me of a toy I had as a kid called the Light Bright. Did anybody?
Yeah.
Have Light Bright?
Well, I have a backpack, and it's like the backpack is like 16 by 16. This is 32 by 32, so we're getting a little bit more. But obviously, I don't think you're supposed to run these things when you're driving. Maybe when you're parked, but it does have a battery in it. I'm not sure how long it'll run.
Oh, you know what that would be handy for? It's a high-tech version of the sign. Just have it say, "I need charge till."
Right. or drive, or you can put like Sentry mode on, or drive. I'm going to make up some things for it, but hopefully you'll see that next time we meet.
You could put the HAL logo on there, since we can't have that on our Teslas anymore.
Yeah. I was thinking about actually, I don't know, the comfort level of people, but I had canceled the July 4th meetup because they canceled the parade. But there's still, West Virginia seems to be a little bit more opened up than Virginia and Maryland. So there's still the chance that I might do something where we just drive there for lunch or something outdoors. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. It's going to have to, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do we know if the Leesburg parade is going to go on?
If they're not doing the parade in West Virginia, I doubt it. They don't want people gathered together like that. you know.
Well, that hotel, you know, the resort with the infinity pool and all that was pretty cool out there, West
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah, I just remember when we went to the college, there was a restaurant with an outdoor area. That was a nice spot. So I'm gonna see if they're open on July 4th, but they might be closed. I'm not sure. And maybe just do the drive like we normally do, and then just have lunch, and then that would be it. It wouldn't be. We wouldn't have to wait to line up for a parade. We could just
Right.
be like, "What are all these cars doing here?" Well, we thought there'd be a parade, but it never happened. So
We could set up something at the APC over there, whatever it's called, American.
yeah,
University.
same thing. I was thinking the same thing. Dennis, we do a parade every year on July 4th. This would be like our 5th or 6th year, and we have a friend out in West Virginia who has been driving electric cars for a long time. His name is Rick, and we set up a deal where there's a local school. I believe they're primarily online, but they have a huge solar structure over their parking area, and they have like, I don't know, 18 charging stations, a couple Tesla destination chargers. So we would meet there in the morning, charge up a little bit, and then we would drive to a parade staging and go into the Shepherdstown, West Virginia parade. And then they had a big picnic lunch, and they canceled that this year. They canceled a lot of things. There's another event we used to do, the Mushroom Festival in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. They canceled that. That's in September, and they canceled it. So I think a lot of organizations are writing things off. I'm not sure about Drive Electric Week yet, but hopefully that'll still happen.
Well,
it's going to be kind of a quiet summer.
No,
Yeah,
I will say Drive Electric Week's probably going to be like Drive Electric Earth Day. You know, do it all on Zoom.
You think so?
Yeah.
But you know, the thing I'm interested in is this might give a whole new dimension to video. So what I would like to have like a live tour. I mean, my idea was people give kind of live tours of their garages, of their charging situations, which sounds a little kind of nerdy, but it can be interesting. And so then it's like, okay, and now to Mark in Waldorf, and now to Jeff.
That's not too nerdy.
Literally.
That was for show and tell. I was trying to do that, but I didn't get approval from the boss to because garage isn't as clean as it could be. So I'm like, okay, I got to do something else for my show and tell. You and I were tracking where it was because I mean I've got 5 plugs in my, and I've figured it was the right crowd to show it off in. But happy wife, happy life. So there you go. There you have it.
Well, that's true too. No, I was going to say though, Charles Gerenia over there in Richmond, he's been doing this every week. He's just saying show and tell. Like right now, he's doing a demonstration of Tata, an electric car maker over there in Richmond. So he's getting different people. I did it one weekend. I just took people out in Herndon and showed them. Look at 0 to 70 and how fast. Because I got a performance 3.
Right. So the Indian conglomerate Tata has an EV in Richmond.
Yeah. No. Well, it's no. It was there. These folks. They call them. Oh no. I'm sorry. You're right. It's not the Tata. You're right because I know Tata. They are in India. This is Tuk Tuk. That's Tuk Tuk. Yeah, that's what I try to remember. Tuk Tuk. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
In Southeast Asia.
Yeah. The Tatas are one thing. You're right. Those are in Southeast Asia or South Asia. These are the Tuk Tuks. And yeah, there's a folks in Richmond that sell Tuk Tuks.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's another way to get public transportation in the tropics, right? I mean, like I said, that's very popular in Southeast Asia as a transportation medium. It was a lot cheaper to get a motorcycle, right? So they just slap a sidecar on it, and off you go.
Exactly.
Okay. Anybody else have a show and tell item?
I have an epilogue, Mark.
Okay, epilogue. Okay, epilogue.
Yeah. So you mentioned clothing. I don't have 3 hours to go through all my T-shirts, but I just wanted to do one category, which is my Tesla jackets.
Okay.
So this one, is pretty popular. Everyone, seen this one. This one's
It's called a
basically the same jacket, but all black.
Hmm.
Tesla logo. I got a vest. Oops. I don't know if you can see it.
Yep.
A vest and just like a sweat jacket, Tesla sweat jacket. And then this one's a true collector's item.
Mm.
This gray one. I brought it to California in December. I don't know if you can see it. It's got red lettering.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend was like, "Oh, where do I want it? I want it." But,
Now, why is that a collector's item?
I think just it's really early on and it's pretty rare.
Okay.
But my friend was like, "Oh, let me buy it off you." That's it. That's all I had.
It's off your back, huh?
Yeah.
Great.
So I guess Dennis. So I guess Fully Charged Live is going to be in Austin next year, like April, I think, or the same time. But it's going to be like downtown in Austin, and so and then it looks like you might be able to go outside of town to Hutto and see a construction site, possibly. But do you think you would go there to Fully Charged Live again?
I'd hope so. I mean, I'm in contact with the guys that run it. I was hoping to go to the one in Europe too, but you know, I'm not traveling internationally for things. I'm not as young as I look. You know, I'm part of the potential risk ages for COVID, and you know, they're opening things up. But my personal policy is I'm going to wait 3 weeks to a month until everybody's done their crazy. See if there's been a big boom. If there hasn't, then I'll emerge from hibernation, if you will. You know, there have been several conferences I've been scheduled to go to, and I was going to go to Norway originally in April, and that got moved to September, and I got moved back to April of next year. So, yeah, I mean, it's not at the Austin one is not the same weeks as Norway, so I've spotted it out. I mean, I'd either go as a participant, like I did this last time. You know, in case they need to throw somebody else to represent California or whatever else you want me to talk about, or just go as an attendee. I mean, we had a lot of fun. I mean, met a lot of people that you know, I guess have followed me on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, hi, and you know, it was nice to meet people in real life, and also catch up with old friends. I mean, I'm good friends with a few people that are there, and you know, it's a good place to meet people that have traveled from all over the country, and some of the folks from Europe I've known from before, so you know, it's good to meet them in real life. But yeah, it's definitely Austin. Fully Charged Live is awesome. I mean, you know, notwithstanding all the slack that Robert got for his post, which was kind of the timeliness factor, may not have been the right timing to do so. But anybody that knows Robert knew that all the stuff he tweeted about wasn't exactly anything that he hasn't said before. I mean, yeah, there's the cult of Elon is very strong at this point, and unfortunately, you know, he needs to have more reasons involved with it. I mean, come on, I mean, just ridiculous.
Okay. Well, I think that's about it for today. If anybody doesn't have anything else, I'm not sure when the next one will be, but we'll see. So
Thanks for
a lot.
having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dennis.
Yeah,
really
thanks.
appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right, good job.
Great job, Dennis. Hey, Dennis, if you send me your mailing address, I might send you a surprise. I don't know.
All
I
right.
might send you a surprise.
You got my contact, Josh. So
I know. I know.
I mean, I got your mobile. I'll text it to you.
Perfect. Cool. I'll send you something.
It's been a Dennis hanging out on YouTube with people or conference calls. So the guys in Australia, Phantom Lane 4, who are 4 guys that run different YouTube channels, mainly Tesla focused, are having a live Zoom, which they usually do on Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Australia, which is like 4 o'clock in the morning for me and 7 o'clock in the morning for you guys. But this time they're doing it in the morning their time and 6 o'clock in the evening Eastern time. So at Phantom Lane 4, they're streaming it, and I'm going to go hang out with them. So if if you're not sick and tired of hanging out with me, that much at least I'm doing. Short plug for those guys to show. And then the 7 o'clock Zoom is with family, so you guys aren't invited to that. That's all my today. We do a extended family dinner on Saturdays. Just to.
So what's the thing? What's the thing called from Australia again? Phantom Lane.
Yeah, my chat isn't working, so I got to figure out how to get my computer running for that. It's called Phantom Lane 4. They have a YouTube channel and a Twitter account.
Okay, I can find
it. If you look at Nash, who's Tesla in the Gong, or Sydney EV, SYD EV, or Tesla Tom, those guys are all part of that crew.
Okay.
And then Missing Atoms, Tesla Straya.
All right. Okay.
Handle. So those guys are all doing the show. It's at 6 o'clock Eastern. I got to translate to you guys the time because I got 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
And keep on driving EV and get everybody else to do it.
Yep.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay.